Okay, thank you, Dr. Trinath, for my introduction. First of all, I would like to thank the management of OP Jindal Institute for organizing this wonderful online conference in the area of process metallurgy. Uh, Process metallurgy is an important area related to the iron and steel research, and many people may argue why we should work in process metallurgy area because all iron making and steel making processes are operating since very long time and they are almost being stabilized. You may be true also to the great extent because today the best operating blast furnaces are running very much close to the thermodynamic limitation. Same situation is for steel making reactors also. But then there is a future challenge which is going to come on the raw material part. That means that we are not likely to have the good quality iron ore in a huge quantity in order to cater our upcoming production targets in our as per our national policies. And for that reason, when we want to deal with the lean quality raw material, the lean quality iron ore or lean quality other minerals, which are going to become the raw material for the future, which earlier we used to discard, then of course we can understand that there is a great requirement to do the research work in the area of process metallurgy. That means that our existing blast furnaces may be running well for the good quality iron ore or iron ore up to a threshold value of Fe content, but beyond that it cannot work because it is going to generate a huge amount of slag. It is going to destabilize the process, and we cannot use it unless until we do a lot of research work either in the beneficiation area or in the area which I mean to say, which can help to develop the new process or new alternate ways of iron making. Same situation is true for other things also. And in the past days, many speakers have talked about various iron steel making process, the challenges on the raw material front, as well as various means to recycle the waste material in the iron and steel making supply chain. So in this context, what I want to say is that if you want to develop new process, if you want to solve the upcoming challenges of process development, developing the new processes, or utilizing the existing process in a more efficient manner, and producing the huge quantity of metal, especially iron and steel, in a sustainable manner without causing much damage to the environment with low emissions, with the low energy consumption. I think that we can understand that there's a great need to work in the area of process metallurgy. We need to involve and motivate large number of students. We need to involve large number of academic institutions. We need to involve even industries also, because industries are going to become a vital partner who can fund those activities in the interest of the nation, so that this process metallurgy area can grow. So today the topic of my talk is, just one second, should I share the screen? Okay, so today the topic of my talk is on quantitative approaches in process metallurgy area of iron and steel making. That means, first of all, I would like to explain what is the meaning of quantitative approach. Quantitative means something which we can quantify. For example, if you look at the history of iron making and steel making, people were producing all kind of metals, not only iron and steel, since a very long time. And they were, in fact, all our earlier civilizations were named with the name of some metal, for example, Bronze Age or Iron Age or something like that. And even the metals were being produced and being used by the human civilization since a long time. And people even do not understand the basic underlying principles, the concept, or you can say the chemistry or reactions based upon which all those metals are being produced, but still they were producing. There have been a significant development in the last century, and especially after the Second World War, as far as the understanding of high temperature melts, as well as the understanding of the temperature of the thermodynamics and kinetics of high temperature processes. And based upon that, people were able to understand the quantitative implications of these processes. If I say what are the quantitative implications, for example, if we are talking about any steel making reactor, if I ask you that, okay, if you want to produce so many tons, say 100 tons of liquid steel, then for that, how much amount of other raw material, like how much amount of flux is required, how much amount of volume of oxygen to be blown, how much amount of other energy components are being required, how much time the process will take. And can we do something that the processing time can be decreased from say 20 minutes to 15 minutes, or from 15 minutes to 10 minutes or 12 minutes. In fact, if you remember, the evolution of steel making process is started from earlier Bessemer process, and then for a long time open hearth, the Siemens Martin process continued. In fact, for almost till Second World War, a lot of steel was being produced through open hearth steel making process, which used to take some 6 to 8 hours for one batch process. And basically the process was taking not only a long time, it was not only taking a long time, but it was highly energy inefficient, used to consume a lot of energy, a lot of fuel for producing per ton steel. And the new stage of the process, that means that the 6 to 8 hour of processing time could be reduced to only 15 or 20 minutes in LD steel making process, and that could become possible only after the understanding of the compressible fluids and development of the D-level nozzle after Second World War, and which has led to the development of iron oxygen steel making process by using top blown vessels. So what I want to say is that somewhere the quantitative understanding of the process metallurgy based upon scientific fundamentals, and if I'm talking about the scientific fundamentals, that involves understanding of thermodynamics, kinetics. If I'm talking about the kinetics, it involves understanding of heat transfer, mass transfer, fluid flow in the reactor, and coupling all of them will result in the set of mathematical equations. Now, if you want to solve those equations, then you may require the help of a mathematician. Some equations are so difficult to solve that analytical solutions do not exist. Then for that, you need to develop some numerical techniques. You need to write, very complicated computer codes, computer programs. And then, thanks to the development of in the area of computing, that now we are having the machines, processors, which can work very efficiently, and we can do even the very complex and lengthy calculations in the shortest possible duration. So based upon that, we can understand that it has led to the development of a field which is called the quantitative approach application in the process metallurgy area, where we can use the knowledge-based approach to design, develop, optimize, and control the iron steel making process. So with this brief introduction, now I'm coming to this is the process layout of a steel plant, which is very much well known to all of you. So I'm just focusing on the upstream side, which is on the process side. So we starting from the basic raw material like iron ore, coal, and limestone, and you can see that there are two routes of iron making. One which involves the smelting route, another which involves the DRI route. And then for steel making, also there are primary steel making. Also there are two prominent processes. One is electric arc furnace, which by and large consumes solid charge, that means scrap and DRI, and basic oxygen furnace, which consumes 70 to 80% of liquid pig iron, and followed by solid charge consisting of scrap and DRI. And the end product of both goes to the secondary steel making stage. What I want to say is that here, each and every process requires some kind of quantification. That means for quantification, if I'm talking about a quantification, we need to define a certain set of mathematical equations which can give the useful predictions and guidance to the process. So an example, for example, in all the process, one thing is very much common, that we need to calculate how much amount of raw material is being required for producing 1 ton of output, maybe 1 ton of pig iron, 1 ton of liquid steel, or 1 ton of DRI. Okay, and in fact, people made a lot of efforts, a lot of calculations, and they had benchmarked the best operating practices, but that benchmarking is also subjected to the local conditions. For example, if I'm talking about a specific kind of raw material, then we can do the benchmarking for each and every process. But suppose if the raw material changes, for example, if we are likely to use some different raw material, or for example, in the future, the raw material which may have low Fe content, if for the case of iron ore, then how we can do the benchmarking for all of these processes, or do we require to develop some additional unit process, unit reactors for beneficiation also, that we have to think about it. So in totality, we can do the quantification of the individual process, and as well as the quantification of the entire supply chain. And irrespective of anything else, at least the quantification of the cost of production of an individual process, the cost of production of the entire steel plant supply chain, that is going to become a vital parameter, which is going to demonstrate the health of the entire steel plant operation. Or there's another term which is called the quantification of CO2 emission. CO2 emission by an individual unit process, or CO2 emission by the entire steel plant for producing 1 ton of steel, or 1 ton of iron. So all these kind of calculations, and which can be used as a benchmarking calculations, or you can say to develop the best operating practice for an individual steel plant, that is essentially required, and that is the need of our. In fact, people are already worked into it. It is not a new area which I'm talking about, but the approach and the thinking to work in this direction is very much important for all of us to develop. One argument with the people who are working in industry may give that all these kind of mathematical models and quantification based approaches can be used, or they are of a matter of interest for the people who are working in academics or in the scientific community, because steel plant can operate their day-to-day business based upon their experience. And in fact, most of the times, if you visit any steel industry, or you visit on the shop floor, you will find that people who are working on the shop floor, they have more confidence on their experience. And of course, experience on the shop floor is very much important. For example, in earlier time, if you're talking about oxygen steel making process, ready steel making process, the people used to control, or you can they used to advise the moment of stopping the blow by just looking at the flame length, or you can say that the intensity of the flame. So those visual examination on the shop floor, that operator is having since the long years of experience, they are also having a source, you can say a better source of understanding. But at the same time, if it is coupled with the quantitative understanding of this process, I think the steel plant operations can be made in a more efficient manner. So as we can understand that the basis for analysis of all chemical and metallurgical process is the mass and energy balance. That is the starting point. At least even if we do not have any idea about advanced concept or thermodynamics and kinetics, but even if we want to start any process, or you can say that if we want to develop any process, so the first thing that what we want to produce and what we want to use, and based upon that, if the process involves any kind of increase in the temperature, then of course from where will we get the energy? So for that, the requirement of the fuel. So for that, the mass and energy balance is the step which I think all processes are having in common. And then in addition to that, the understanding of thermodynamics and kinetic constraints of the process. So all these understanding coupled with together, they are used for plant design, then under the capital cost, technical evaluations in the steel industry. And if I'm talking about the nature of the iron and steel process in general, so basically the high temperature process, it involves, the interaction between the slag and metal. So obviously, the high temperature process will always generate a liquid melt, that is the liquid metal, liquid slag. Either it's iron making process, either it's steel making process. So there's always a dynamic interaction between the slag, metal, and gas phases existing all together at very high temperature. Then basically the reaction chemistry of the process, which involves the thermodynamics and kinetics, and then the solid charge that has been added into the process. So we also need to understand the dissolution rate of those solid charge, like that's the dissolution rate of the lime, dissolution rate of the scrap, dissolution rate of other fluxes. So for that also we need to develop the quantitative understanding that what is the mechanism of dissolution, how much time will it take, and based upon that we can decide the size limitation. For example, in the steel making vessel, we cannot use the lime of any size, or you can say that there's a size limitation. Similarly, in the blast furnace also, if you are charging the raw material, for example, pellet, iron ore pellet, iron ore sinter, or coke, etc., there are size limitations, and as per the requirement of the process. Then the computational fluid dynamic applications are very much common as far as the understanding of those reactors are concerned, in order to understand the fluid flow and then heat transfer to estimate the temperature, velocity, pressure variation within the reactor. And if you visit any shop floor of any of the process, either it's a steel making process or iron making process, you will find that nowadays steel plants are being controlled by multi-level automation control systems. Out of that control system, I mean to say the level 2 is comprising of the mathematical models which are guiding the process, and also which are making the post calculations based upon the the analysis of the past data in the steel plant. So having talked so much now, I would like to just say that what is the mathematical model? You may ask them, what is the mathematical model? So in a single sentence, it is the translation of the process of phenomena in the form of system of equations. Those equations may be linear in nature, or they may be non-linear in nature. They may be in the form of partial differential equations, if you're talking about time-dependent kinetics of the process. If you're just a simple heat and mass balance model, then it may be a simple linear model. If it is only mass balance model, only elemental balances, that means, or if it involves a heat balance model, then it may be the non-linear set of equations, because the heat balance is having the non-linear terms. Basically, those models can be used in both the ways. One is either the feed-forward control or feedback control. One way could be that it is able to predict the future course of the process. Another way could be that it is also integrated with the online measurements, and then based upon the feedback coming from the online measurements, it further can be used to guide the input operating parameters to bring the process on the proper track. So the mathematical modeling of the high temperature process based upon quantitative methods assist the plant engineer in optimizing and controlling the complex processes in an efficient manner. And the mass and energy balances of the individual unit process or collective balances for the entire supply chain, coupled with the quantitative approaches based upon thermodynamics and kinetic modeling, serves as a basis tool for minimizing cost of production and CO2 emissions, as well as achieving the quality and productivity targets. So what are the modeling techniques which are being used in general to optimize and control the process? So the first very general technique is based upon the fundamental approach. That means simple fundamental model that's based upon the simple mass balance and heat balance involving thermodynamics. If I'm talking about the thermodynamics, it could be a single reactor based model. Or if I'm talking about the kinetics, it could be a model where the reactor has been divided into a number of parts. Some part is in the thermodynamic equilibrium, other is in the non-equilibrium, and there may be the stream of flow of material to and fro, which is guided by the kinetics of mass transfer. Then another set of models which are based upon data-based modeling approach. So basically in the steel plant, if you go and see any steel plant, the automation control system, you will find that lot of data are being stored on process to process basis, on daily basis, on weekly basis, on monthly basis. So basically, just by using or you can say by utilizing the past data of any process, we can develop a lot of models based upon database modeling approach. Then evolutionary models, that models based upon artificial intelligence, like artificial neural network, genetic algorithm, fuzzy logic, etc. So these are the and then input output system based models, like which includes the cost analysis, scheduling, debottlenecking, etc. So what are the objectives of the mathematical models? So the mathematical models, they play a key role in process design, analysis, control, and optimization through quantitative representation of the process. That means that, for example, we in the earlier time, as I told, that when people were not having any scientific idea about the iron and steel making, still they were producing iron and steel in a great quantity. Then the error and trial was the only method just to optimize and control, because we do not know the effect of other parameters. We cannot precisely quantify that. Okay, if we are going to increase the flux rate by X quantity, then what is going to be the change in the refining behavior of the process, something like that. Or if we are going to make any kind of change in the iron ore quality, then how much coke rate is going to increase for unit increase, unit decrease in some of the parameters on the quality front of the raw material. So those kind of understanding were not there earlier. But if we are able to develop some kind of framework or some kind of model which can give that kind of understanding, I think that is going to help a lot. Then optimization, that means minimizing the cost or maximizing the profit. And one more thing which I would like to add is that minimizing the CO2 emissions also. Then interpretation of experimental measurements and comparison with the model calculated results are important for getting better insight of the process. Of course, based upon the mathematical modeling, we can understand the mechanism of various reactions and process dynamics in a better manner. So basically, that is also important. For example, in the case of iron ore reduction, based upon with the help of mathematical model, we can say that whether the process is being controlled by diffusion or mass transfer, whether it is controlled by chemical reaction, or whether it is controlled by the combination of both. And if so, then in what range of whether it is in the initial part, whether in the final part, or something like that. So we can get the better insight of the process in a similar way for other processes also as well. Then the most important the help which we can get by the quantitative understanding of the process and development of mathematical model is that very less number of experiments are needed for optimizing the process control parameters. So and then therefore saving the cost of unnecessary plant trials. So when we want to develop any high temperature process, so high temperature experiments are very costly. Either the high temperature experiments which are being done at the pilot scale plant in the laboratory, they are also very costly. So, and if those high temperature experiments are being done with the running process, then they are extremely costly. For example, of course they are taking a lot of production hours also, but in addition to that, we are dealing with a huge quantity of metal with those trials, and if something goes wrong, then it is going to cost to become very costly. So basically, with the help of this kind of quantitative understanding of the process and making the framework based upon the mathematical models, we can at least understand and we can study the process in a quantitative manner, and we can simulate the process, and we can test it for various possibilities, and out of them we can select few experiments in a very intelligent manner, and by those experiments we may be able to find out our target. Okay, it is a we can say that a much better approach than the error and trial based approach, where sometimes we are able to hit the target, and sometimes we are not able to hit the optimum target. So then another important the benefit with the help of mathematical model is that online determination of quantities which cannot be measured. For example, in the case of steel making, for example, in the case of LED steel making, and still we are not in a position to do the online measurement of the composition of metal and slag while the process goes on. But with the help of a good kinetic model which is integrated with the waste gas, at least we can calculate the FeO level of the slag. At least we can calculate the composition of the slag, and we can develop a model, and then based upon certain intermediate turndowns, we can validate it, and then it can be used as a guiding tool. Similarly, with the help of post combustion model, with the help of waste gas based post combustion model, we can also calculate, or we can also estimate the nature of the slag. We can also estimate the FeO level of the slag. That is going to determine the nature of the slag, whether the slag is foamy slag, or whether the slag is getting dry. So basically the online measurements in the high temperature process are not possible, but online determination and calculations based upon other online parameters, that is possible. So there it can help to control the process in an efficient manner. Then assisting the operator in terms of model-based predictive control. That means, of course, the level 2 automation control system that is being used extensively in a steel plant. Then parameter estimation and computerized design of experiments for process optimization and risk analysis. And then enhanced understanding of the underlying physical mechanism by comparison of the experimental and calculated results. So with the repetitive, experiments, by repetitive calculation by the model, and then by repetitive experiments, and then comparing the calculated results versus experimental results, and then the fine tuning the model, we can understand the physical mechanism underlying, underlying physical mechanism of the process, and can get the better insight of the process. So what are the steps in mathematical modeling? So steps, actually, they are very much well known, that that mathematical modeling is not the only exercise which is going to give us the desired target on the shop floor. There are, it should also be integrated with the, the comparison with the plant data as well as the pilot plant data. And sometimes it is not possible to understand the mixing behavior in the reactor at very high temperature. We cannot do the high temperature experiment to understand the mixing behavior. So for that, the physical models based upon the similarity criteria, they can be developed in the laboratory. For example, water and steel is having a lot of based upon the kinematic viscosity based similarity criteria, we can develop the physical model in the laboratory, and we can do a lot of experiments in the water based physical model, and under various parameters which can be mapped back to the actual process based upon the similarity criteria. And we can understand the effect of various operating parameters on the mixing of the reactor. So the mathematical modeling, physical modeling, plant and pilot plant based data, they are coupled with together. They are able to give you the ultimate objective and truth of a shop floor real process. So these are the steps that process identification, process formulation, scoping, scaling, and then once you are having the set of mathematical equations, you will require numerical solutions. Then the results are compared with the experiments, and then you just synthesize them together. And then after a lot of this cyclic process and understanding, once the results are useful, they can be implemented. So the methodology of the mathematical modeling, that involves the understanding the objective of the problem to be modeled. It requires literature review and going through a similar kind of work. Then problem analysis, setting up pilot plant and laboratory experiments, data collection, data preparation, then development of mathematical model. Once the mathematical model is able to give you the results, they can be better presented. I mean to say, first of all, formulation, coding, and then for presentation, graphical user-based program designing. Then the model is being tested for various parameters, and then the sensitivity analysis of the model is being done. Then the model results are analyzed, and then they can be finally implemented if the results are okay and useful. So with this introduction about the quantitative approach based, approach, quantitative approach application in iron steel making area, in our group at IIT Madras, we have investigated a number of problems in steel making, iron making area, starting from basic oxygen steel making process, that development of static and dynamic control models, flow sheet based model control using METSIM, then the static and model for the Corex melter gasifier, then data-based modeling approach, which have been applied to iron steel making process, including the ANN-GA approaches. So now I think we do not have much time left. So I would like to just give you a brief, presentation of one or two problems. Like I will try to give you the presentation on the BOF steel making process, static and dynamic control model, and then if the time remains, I will give you the development of the expert system for Corex melter gasifier based upon FACS's microprogramming approach. Okay, and then you can ask any doubt or any queries, whatever. So the first problem which I am going to discuss today is about the development of static and dynamic control model of BOF steel making process and its validation with steel plant data. So this work was started by one of my MTech students, Shwetank Pandey. He was first MTech student who worked under me, and it was a short-term based industrial project with JSW Steel Plant. So I'm thankful that there are a number of participants from industry side also, and this work is also being presented in AIST conference. So one can find out the details from this link later on. So the whole work is available and being published. So if I'm talking about the LD steel making process, so this is the the schematic diagram of the LD steel making process during the middle part of the globe, where liquid pig iron, which is coming from the blast furnace, is blown with the high velocity oxygen jet, and the objective is to do the refining. That means to remove the the impurities present like carbon, manganese, silicon, phosphorus. All these impurities are being oxidized, and then they are being combined with the flux that is being added during the process. And also the process involves a lot of oxidation reactions which are exothermic in nature. So they also help to dissolve this scrap and other coolants. So the entire process that involves this slag metal reaction, that means that the evolution of slag with time as the lime dissolves. So if you look at the evolution of steel and slag composition during the process, it looks like that in the initial part of the process, FeO increases. So basically it increases because the process is being blown with the higher lance side. The higher lance side in the initial part is leading to the formation of more and more FeO. And the FeO is required for the dissolution of lime. Why? Because if you look at the CO, FeO, SiO2 phase diagram, you will find that lime is not going to dissolve unless until you form FeO. That means that any combination of CaO and SiO2 is going to have very high melting point. That means that the melting point is much higher than the the steel operating temperature, steel making operating temperature. So unless until you mix it with the FeO, its melting point is not going to be reduced and it is not going to form the liquid slag. So that is why since there is a requirement of FeO, so the lance side is kept higher in the initial part of the blow to promote more FeO formation. And once the FeO that has been formed in the initial part is able to dissolve the lime in enough quantity and enough volume of liquid slag has been formed, then the lance side is being lowered in the steps. And then after 30–40% of the process is being run at the minimum possible lance side, where minimum possible lance side is able to throw the metal droplets into already existing slag metal gas emulsion on top of it, where those metal droplets are circulating and they are coming back and providing the extended slag metal interfacial area which is helping in dephosphorylation. And of course, the decarbonization reactions are also at the at the highest rate during the middle part of the blow, or when the launch site is being lowered at the minimum height. If you are talking about the removal of impurities present in the liquid melt, so as you can see that silicon is getting oxidized in the first 3 to 5 minutes, first 20% of the blow, because silicon is having higher affinity towards oxygen, whereas the removal of carbon occurs continuously, whereas the phosphorus actually, that removal occurs either in the middle part of the blow or in the last part of the blow, and because it requires the highly basic slag and the slag which is rich in FeO. So the steel making, if you are looking at the mechanism of the process, you will find that the oxygen which is being injected into the liquid metal is getting dissolved into liquid metal first. The dissolution of oxygen in the liquid metal is, if you look at the standard free energy of oxygen, dissolved oxygen getting dissolved, the gaseous oxygen is getting dissolved in the liquid metal, liquid steel at 16 degrees centigrade, you will find that it is having highly negative value as far as the change in the free energy is concerned. So oxygen is getting dissolved in a very huge quantity, and as soon as it is being supplied to the surface, to the bath, sorry, and that dissolved oxygen is having the preference to react with either dissolved carbon or dissolved silicon or dissolved manganese or dissolved phosphorus. So basically here the thermodynamics which is going to operate. So as per the thermodynamic driving force, it is going to react with silicon first, then followed by other elements like manganese, then carbon, and then so on and so forth. So the steel making is the process which involves dynamic interaction between atoms, ions, molecules existing all together at interface of the slag metal and gas phase at high temperature, and then liquid slag in enough volume is an essential requirement, and it demands the dissolution of lime at a faster rate, and high level of FeO is required initially to dissolve lime. So basically, as I already given you the FeO CO2 phase diagram, from where you can understand that FeO is the requirement of the process in the initial part of the blow. So in the middle part of the blow, you will find that the oxygen jet is striking. It is getting it is supplying the oxygen into the depth of the bath, and then there are a lot of circulation streams, and on top of it there's a slag emulsion. There's a liquid slag, and then the product of oxidation, except for carbon, all product of oxidation are liquid in nature. So the product of oxidation is carbon monoxide. As far as the carbon is concerned, those carbon monoxide gas bubbles are rising through the slag, liquid slag on top of it. So it is forming the slag metal emulsion. In addition to that, you may find a lot of floating undissolved lime particles also as well. So if we want to control the oxygen steel making process in a quantitative manner, what are the control measures which are available? That static control models are available, dynamic control models are available, the models which are based upon a data-based approach like data analysis, like multivariate models, artificial neural network models, Mahalanobis system-based models, principal component analysis-based models, and so on and so forth. And also it is possible to develop the dynamic control model in the form of the post-combustion control model, which can predict the nature of the slag. So I will discuss about all of them in detail. So what is static control model? It is based upon overall heat and material balance. Okay, like if I'm talking about the material balance, then it involves the Fe balance, slag balance, and oxygen balance. It calculates the amount of slag like lime, iron ore to be added, and volume of oxygen to be blown, along with final liquid steel and slag weights for the given weights, composition of hot metal, scrap, as well as for the given endpoint conditions. Vice versa, it can also calculate the hot metal and scrap weight for other known quantities. So basically, the static control models can be used in both the way. It can be used either for the ordering of the hot metal and scrap for the future heat, or for making the blowing calculations once the actual weight, actually hot metal as well as the scrap is being charged into the vessel. And these models are based upon feedback control. That means that since it is a batch process, so even if you do the heat and mass balance in whatever possible manner, or even if all compositions and weights are available, but still there may be some error, the error which is arising from the measurements, the error which is arising from the non-availability, or you can say that non-availability of compositions, or maybe the composition which you are using in the current heat may correspond to some previous heat, and the current compositions are not available. So all these calculations, no matter howsoever accurate and better in a better manner you do, but always there will be some error. So in order to adjust those errors, these models are using the feedback calculation. That means to adjust those errors arising due to unknown or uncertain part of the heat and mass balances. So in our calculation, we have performed the mass balance equations like iron balance, carbon balance, CO balance, MgO balance, silicon balance. These are all linear equations which are able to generate weight, waste gas volume, lime weight, dolomite weight, and slag weight. And then having done this, then it is followed by the calculation of oxygen volume and final temperature of the process by performing the oxygen balance and heat balance. Okay. So if I'm talking about for doing the mass balance, then we must know that what are the source of various elements. So iron ore is coming from hot metal ore, DRI scrap, okay, and it is going in the form of the output in the form of the liquid steel, and in the LD slag in the form of FeO. So similarly, for all the elements, we can make a table, okay, and then the equations can be set up for the heat balance. So for the heat balance, basically this is very simple thing. The only thing is that for the heat balance is a very tricky, in the sense that we require the data for the sensible heat of all the elements, all the components present in the liquid metal as well as the slag actually. And otherwise the equations are very much well known. That means we require a sensible heat of all the input parameters, sensible heat of all the output parameters, exothermic heat of reactions at a standard temperature, endothermic heat of reactions at a standard temperature output side. And similarly, on the output side, the uncertain parameter, the heat loss. That means that heat loss which is getting lost through the converter lining, by conduction, or by converter mouth, through radiation. So for that, it is also possible to quantify it if you have the converter dimension, converter design, and then we can develop those models and we can calculate them. As far as the distribution of manganese, phosphorus, and sulfur between the slag is concerned, we can use the thermodynamic derived, similar kind of equations. For example, for phosphorus, the Haley's equation has been used. So for sulfur, we know that it is a function of basicity. Manganese distribution is the function of carbon. So all the equations have been incorporated into the model. And then from the steel plant, we have collected the data, because once we have developed the model, unless we validate it with the steel plant data, it is of no use actually. So so we have collected 1 month heat data for a converter, and then after that we have used MATLAB coding for development of a static control model based upon the heat and mass balance. And then we have collected data. Then out of those data, we have collected the sensible data. And then by using those sensible data sets, we have calculated a closing item for heat balance, oxygen balance. And then we have matched those kind of discrepancies with the actual observations and plotted them and presented them. So basically for the lime prediction, actually, it is giving the R square of 0.65. Lime prediction is being done you can say in a very reasonable manner. As far as the heat loss calculations are concerned, so we have got a lot of scatter for the the heat loss, that is in terms of kilojoule values. And what we can say that although there was a lot of scatter, but if we plot the heat loss with respect to the silicon present in the hot metal, it is going almost although there is a band of error, but it is showing some relationship. That means that if the silicon is high in the hot metal, obviously it is going to generate a huge volume of slag. So obviously the larger is the slag volume, larger will be the surface area covered by the slag inside the converter, as well as the surface area covered along the lance, because lance is also immersed into the slag. And since the larger surface area is being covered by the slag, if the slag volume is higher for the high silicon content hot metal, then there will be the larger amount of heat loss also. Okay, so I will be talking about the heat loss. So heat loss through the surface via conduction, heat loss from the top via radiation, heat loss through the lance cooling system. So all these heat loss are accumulating together. So just I give you a brief idea about the calculation of the closing item for the heat balance, heat loss for the converter process during blowing and wetting. So the heat loss, so we made following considerations for our calculation, that heat losses take place through conduction through the refractory lining, followed by the radiation from the outer shell, then the heat loss through the lance, then the heat loss through the mouth of the converter. So we have developed a separate model for the heat loss calculation, and then based upon the design parameter of the converter, which has been provided by the industry, we have calculated the heat loss during blowing, heat losses with converter filled with the steel, and heat losses when converter is wetting empty. Under different conditions, what we have found that the heat loss by radiation is having the highest contribution, and the heat loss through the shell is having the least contribution. And of course, the heat loss through lance is also having a significant contribution. But all these contributions are dynamic in nature. For example, as the converter vessel, for example, in the calculation, I have assumed some thickness of the refractory lining, but as the converter campaign life goes on, the thickness may also decrease. So for the older converter, the heat loss to the shell may increase, and in the overall sense, the heat loss in the older converter may be more as compared to in a new converter. So similarly, when there are a lot of gaps between the heats, for example, when the converter is wetting full of steel because the caster is not available, then also there are heat losses. If the converter is waiting in the empty condition for the next charge, then also there are heat losses. So all those things can be quantified and taken care while doing the calculation. Okay. So this is the static model which I have developed for the industry in the graphical user interface, where one side one can enter the input parameters, on the other side one can just by clicking the button one can present the results. As far as the temperature prediction with static control models are concerned, we are getting a very good agreement with respect to the industrial data. Then, having developed dynamic control model, now I'm talking about the development of the static control model. Now I'm talking about the development of dynamic control model. So dynamic control models are having the capability to predict the state of the process. That means the time dependent, the values of the steel and slag compositions, their weights, as well as the temperature. And the most common models which are now being used in the steel plant are based upon the waste gas information. There's a decarburization rate, dC by dt, FeO level. They can be calculated by performing dynamic carbon and oxygen balance of the process from the waste gas data. And people had also developed the models based upon fundamental laws of thermodynamics and mass transfer concepts. So a lot of literature are available on these fronts, and people may just have a look at it. So in the present work, what I did is that the dynamic control mathematical model in conjunction with the waste gas information has been developed. Then the kinetics of line dissolution is assumed to be the function of FeO level of the slag. And then we have estimated the transient carbon composition, decarburization rate, bath temperatures, slag composition like CaO, FeO, SiO2. Only three components I have considered because they are the vital components. Then estimation of post-combustion ratio existing at the mouth of the converter, that has been done. And then with the coupled analysis of post-combustion ratio in association with the lance side, waste gas flow rate, lance oxygen flow rate, and estimated FeO level of the slag has been done to arrive at suitable considerations of process control. That means that we can, with all these coupled control, we can predict the nature of the slag, whether the slag is dry, whether the slag is liquid, or whether the sloping is likely to occur, so on and so forth. But before I just proceed further, just 1 second. So before I proceed further, just like give you some idea about the post-combustion control model. So what is the post-combustion? So the oxygen jet is impinging on the liquid metal surface at certain angle here, and it is having one envelope. So basically, in this envelope, the center point is having the high velocity, whereas the outer surface is having the velocity decreases. But you know, after the impact of the jet, the 1 second. After the impact of the jet, the carbon monoxide gas, which is arising, which is coming from the impingement zone. But this carbon monoxide gas may get entrained into the oxygen jet while moving upward, and that entrainment will depend on the condition above the metal surface. That means what could be the conditions? The first condition is that if the liquid metal is being covered with the enough volume of the slag, then the possibility that this rising carbon monoxide gas bubble may get entrained with the jet is more. So it means that this carbon monoxide gas, if it is getting entrained to the jet, will again form carbon dioxide, and that is going to give you the post-combustion ratio by this factor. So basically, the degree of combustion of the CO2 depends on the waste gas entrainment in the oxygen jet in the hot spot region, and the kinetics of reduction of FeO in the slag also. So both are participating together. So basically, the overall sense, this slag volume, that the presence of enough volume of the slag is going to guide the post-combustion ratio. So what I want to say is that the post-combustion ratio in some way can be used to give you the prediction about the presence of the slag above the liquid metal and its nature also, whether the slag is dry, whether the slag is liquid in nature. So based upon the publication done by this particular group, and we have made certain calculations on the theoretical post-combustion ratio as well as the actual post-combustion ratio, and its ratio, which is called a beta, that is the ratio of the actual post-combustion ratio to theoretical post-combustion ratio. So the theoretical post-combustion ratio, so basically this is the lance height, the throat diameter of the lance, okay, where this pressure is being calculated, the volumetric flow rate of the oxygen is being calculated based upon this parameter. Supersonic core length is being calculated, lance height being calculated by taking care of by reducing the length of the supersonic core, and the actual post-combustion ratio is being calculated by the post-combustion data, by the waste gas data, but by considering the effect of nitrogen which is coming after entrainment. So the waste gas percentage cannot be directly used, I mean to say, because the waste gas percentage is being measured behind a cooling stack, which also contains some nitrogen because of the entrainment of the air at the converter mouth. So it cannot be used directly for the calculation of actual post-combustion ratio at the mouth of the converter. We have to subtract the contribution coming from the entrainment while it's travel from the mouth to the cooling stack, and based upon that we have calculated the actual post-combustion ratio. And then the ratio of actual measured value of the post-combustion ratio, the theoretical post-combustion ratio, is called beta. So for more details, please read this publication, Mechanism of Post-Combustion Control in the Converter by Omori and Harada. So now how the post-combustion ratio can predict the slag formation and dry blow as well. I mean to say that the behavior of the slag formation, there are two aspects which are dry blow versus sloping. So whatever is happening during dry blow formation, that is just opposite in nature to that of sloping. So in the main part of the blow, when the foam height constantly decreases with the time, leading to a situation when the metal droplets coming out of the mouth vessel, and basically it is also encountered along with the rise in the exhaust gas temperature. So whenever dry blow occurs, so there are two things which are occurring. The first is that there is an increase in the exhaust gas temperature. Second is that there is increase in the volumetric flow rate of the waste gas also. Okay, and the consequences are lance sculling, mouth jam, hood jam, damage to the lining, loss in thermal efficiency of the process. So why? Because now the rising gases are and the circulating droplets in the vessel are not able to mix with the slag and dissipate their energy to the slag, and then they are leaving the vessel carrying all the sensible heat. So we can predict the dry blow by employing the post-combustion model, and we can take the corrective action. How? As we know that during the period of the dry slag formation, there is a steady decrease in the post-combustion value, and depending upon that, we can predict the degree of dry slag formation. Other things what can occur, that waste gas volumetric flow rate and temperature also increases during dry blow period. So therefore, in practice, the occurrence of dry slag formation can be predicted and a corrective action can be taken much in advance with the help of post-combustion control model. So basically, these are some of happenings which are being shown with respect to the plant data. So basically, there's a decrease in the waste gas volumetric flow rate. There's a decrease in the beta during this dry blow formation. So sorry, this is during sloping. So during sloping, there's a decrease in the waste gas volumetric flow rate, and there's a decrease in post-combustion ratio. And opposite to sloping is the dry blow. So in a dry blow, opposite is occurring. So anyway, so we have investigated the plant data, and based upon that, we have predicted that dry blow is occurring in this region when post-combustion ratio is decreasing, and there is an increase in the, if you look at the waste gas flow rate, so there's an increase in the waste gas flow rate and there's a decrease in the PCR ratio. Now, with the help of dynamic control model, we can also predict the dC by dt. So as you can see that dC by dt is having almost a theoretically looking curve that initially it is increasing at a linear rate, then it almost becomes constant, and then after that it starts decreasing. FEO, initially it increases, then it achieves, so FEO axis is on this side, so FEO increases, then it decreases. Please note that these are the model predicted results based upon the waste gas analysis of a specific plant data. Similarly, DO by dt, that means that slag oxygen as a function of time. You can find out that in this region, there is a negative DO slag by dt due to FEO consumed in decarbonization. So resulting in low FEO level in the slag. So obviously, if you look at the CO, FEO, SiO2 phase diagram, if the FEO level of the slag goes down below a critical level, the slag will get dry, okay, and it will no longer remain in liquid stage, and then all the problems of dry blow will start. Okay, that is highly undesirable situation. So based upon all these calculations, we can predict those happenings well in advance, and the operator can take the corrective action by raising the lance height well in advance to take care of those eventualities. Similarly, the same thing, CO, FeO, SiO2 drawn in the same plot. Volume of slag is being predicted. This is the area at this particular moment. The operator is supposed to increase the lance height because it is going below this. Okay, so one can look at these plots. These plots, if you are using the online data on online, it is possible to develop this kind of control system in an online mode, where based upon the waste gas analysis, all these plots can be generated in online mode before the operator's screen, and operator can have a look at it, and based upon that he can take certain corrective action. Okay, anyway, so these are the results. Based upon the static and dynamic control model that has been developed by using the industrial data of JSW Steel Plant, and while developing static control model, the proper selection of closing item of the heat balance is very much important. Okay, it was found to have a very strong relationship with silicon content of the hot metal. Then the calculation of the heat loss during blowing wetting by fundamental equation of the heat transfer may give reasonable idea about various closing items. Then subsequent to that, dynamic control model is developed using waste gas information, which helps to predict dry blow and sloping well in advance by monitoring actual post-combustion and relative post-combustion ratios in advance to waste gas flow rate at the converter mouth, then line dissolution rate, basicity, FUL level, decarbonation rate. Then the oxygen in the slag can also be predicted dynamically, which can help further to predict the nature of slag in addition to dry blow prediction. Then corrective action can also be taken well in advance by the operator, like raising the lance sight when there is a steep drop in post-combustion ratio and FeO content, and rise in waste gas flow rate, and steep in dCi/dt, and prolonged negative value of DO slag by dt. Please note that this statement is very much important. Then so in this way, what I can conclude is that this static and dynamic control model and post-combustion based dynamic control model can guide the process with a smooth operation with minimum dry blow and sloping. So this is still under, work is going on. Some work was going on, had occurred, and we have published one paper also, but still further trials are required in order to develop this work in a more efficient and applied manner. Actually, I don't know how much time is left now. I just wanted to discuss about the comprehensive computational model of the Corex process, iron making process also as well. So this work was done by my recent PhD student, Dr. Sri Shilan. So Dr. Sri Shilan is now in NIT Bhopal. And for more details, one can read all these 3 publications. So I will just quickly go through this slide. So basically, this Corex process is one of the commercially applied non-alternate iron making process that involves that involves smelting as well as the reduction. So in the reduction shaft, basically, and one of the the added advantages that you can use coal also instead of coke in the blast furnace. So basically, if you look at the process, it is having 2 steps. One is the pre-reduction, followed by this gasification, and then the reduction of the remaining iron ore, and and melting and other things. So in the reduction shaft, this iron ore is being pre-reduced by using the by using the high calorific value waste gas coming from the melter gasifier. And so basically this process can also be modeled, and this process can also be I mean to say we can apply the similar kind of quantitative framework of understanding of the process. We can develop the model like a static control model, as well as you can say that dynamic control model for this process also as well, based upon the same. That means we can see the sensitivity of different kind of raw material. That means we can check that iron ore up. Just 1 second. Okay, so basically we can up to what adverse consequences. What could be the consequences? First of all, we are using a lot of coal in this process. Coal is having a lot of ash, so obviously the slag volumes are going to become much higher as far as if you come for this process, as if you compare it with the blast furnace iron making. In addition to that, if you are also using the iron ore of the lean quality, then it will further increase the coal rate, and as well as you can say the slag volatility analysis can be done with the help of those modeling based framework. So anyway, what I'm going to do is that just I'm quickly going through these slides because time is running very up. So basically, we have developed the single zone static thermochemical model for melter gasifier. Then multi-zone thermodynamic model based upon Faxage has been developed. Then kinetic model has been developed for the reduction shaft. And then finally, graphical representation of the heat and mass balance has been presented for the entire reactor as well. For the single zone static model, the material balance has been performed, heat balance has been performed, and then the post combustion control ratio has been calculated, then degree of metallization has been defined. Now I'm going to results. The result of the static control model is that, if you look at this graph, these are the, the variation of coal, flux, oxygen for different level of metallization in the pre-reduction chamber. As metallization increases, the requirement of coal decreases, which is very much obvious. So increase in the post-combustion ratio decreases coal requirement, flux requirement, oxygen requirement, and increase in metallization decreases the coal requirement, flux requirement, oxygen requirement, export gas produced. These are all very, the well-known effects, but how much, in how much quantity they will take. So for that, we required one model framework and we have developed it. We performed the calculation for the data given by a certain steel plant, but we can do the similar calculation for other steel plants also, or in the same plant. If suppose tomorrow the situation changes that they are going to use some different kind of raw material, different kind of fuel, or different kind of situation, or different kind of design, then also this model can be further tested well, and it can be used as a guiding tool. Then the multi-zone thermodynamic model has been developed, where the process has been divided into the number of zones, and then the similarly the reduction set is also been divided into number of zones, and then based upon that we made certain calculations of adiabatic flame temperature, COS2 requirement in the reducing gas, then effect of coal gas on the hot metal composition. So different type of coal has been used. I don't know which is the superior coal. Maybe we can find out that, of course, in general, as the metallization increases, the silicon percentage also decreases. So the reason is very much obvious, that higher metallization will require lower coal. So it means that lesser amount of ash is increasing into the system. So obviously you will be having lesser silicon content in the hot metal also. Okay. Similar kind of trend you can see for the phosphorus also, manganese also. So under different condition, under different type of coal that has been used, we can predict the liquid metal composition also as well. And okay, I'm just skipping few slides. So the kinetic model reduction shaft has been developed based upon the dynamic heat, based upon the dynamic heat balance, energy balance. Okay. Anyway, I just want to conclude here, because for giving the detailed presentation of the Codex process, it will require another 1 hour. So I don't have so much time now. Again, I would like to thank the management of OP Jindal Institute for organizing this wonderful conference in a much needed area of process metallurgy.